Yo, I'm Sporadic. I got a lot of questions about Feral, so I figured I'd put a guide together. I stream at twitch.tv/SporadicLive, and I've been over 2,702s and 3,103s. I'll put my Trek PvP link in the description below in case you want to Sherlock Holmes my shit. I got my first Gladiator in Legion. I'm not a BlizzCon competitor, and I'm not a rank 1. I'm just a man who plays a cat. And fun fact, cats have barbed penises. This guide is for 9.3 Season 4 of Shadowlands, so if you're in the future playing Dragonflight and watching this, go watch another guide. This is not relevant anymore. If you are in the future watching this playing a Shadowlands private server, find God. If you are in the future watching this for Shadowlands Classic, that implies Mob Classic exists, and you're still playing Shadowlands. Find God. Alright, let's start with what race you should be as a Feral. Night Elf. That's the only answer. If you're forced to be Horde because of a raiding guild or something, be Tauren. But Night Elf, that ability to drop combat and re-rake stun something, meld defensively, meld like a chaos bolt. Just meld in general is such a powerful racial for a Feral. I don't pick anything else. Don't be a dog, aka Worgen. Don't be a fat human. Don't just be Night Elf. If you go out there and you choose to play Tauren when you have the freedom to be a Night Elf, you didn't watch a Sporadic guide, you watched a Zev guide. Alright, for Covenant, Necrolord is the best Feral Covenant. It has the highest survivability, high consistent damage, and super bursty goes. Adaptive Swarm also affects Frenzied Regeneration and Bear Form. The Bear Form Fleshcraft is also the biggest Fleshcraft you can get in the game, especially if you're playing with the Ursign's Vigor Conduit. I'm not going to talk about the other Covenant Feral playstyles in this guide. I have played Night Fae and Carrion extensively though, so if you have questions about them, you can ask me when I'm streaming. Alright, Conduits. So your typical Conduit build or whatever, Soulbind, you're gonna go Plague Divisor, Merilith, that's Necrolord, and Taste for Blood, Well-Honed Instincts, Evolved Swarm, Ursine Vigor, Carnivorous Instinct, and Innate Resolve. You go Plague Divisor, Merilith because it immunes CC obviously, but you also get like a passive mastery buff which is good for feral damage. And also it summons an Oozeling, which increases your damage by 6% on the target, which can be good. But when that Kevin's Oozeling is out, it can fuck your meld. Keep that in mind. When I go over macros, I'm going to give you a macro that cancels Kevin when you try to meld later on. So this will be your typical standard build, which you go. And then there's like a one-shot build that you can go that involves going Plagueis Preemptive Strike. It's good. But it only procs once ever on the same target until like the next game. Like or if you're dueling somebody and you proc it on them, you gotta go log out, log back in for it to work again. It's this is not great baseline, but if you're doing like a one-shot build, like you're going the Circle Legendary, you're wearing this, you go Savage Roar, you wear Badge, this is like part of the one-shot build. It's fun. All right, talents. So Lunar Inspiration as Necrolord. It's affected by Adaptive Swarm. You're generally going the Draught Legendary, so you want to it gets good synergy with that because it affects Moonfire. Also being able to generate combo points from range is super good to for you because you're able to put out damage, get combo points to be able to use finishers while also not being in range to take damage from like melee cleaves and such. Wild Charge here on this tier. This is be the baseline. Not only can you leap to enemies, you can leap to your teammates, your party members, which is obviously good for a number of reasons. One is like just to escape to a pillar, like you leap to your healer that's at a pillar and you walk around the pillar line. It's easy to get away. You can leap to your healer to eat a trap. Like, you know, when your hunter, when the hunter on the enemy team intims your healer, you can target them, wild charge to them, and it will put you like pretty much like exactly on top of them. You go bear form, and you will eat the trap a lot of times by doing that. Okay, so in this next row, Guardian is what you're gonna run baseline. You never go balance affinity. Having that incapacitating roar is invaluable. To peel, whether it's to extend goes, like off of a trap, you half incap roar. Whether it's your hunter missed a trap, so you just like, okay, fuck it, I'll go incap roar into a clone if you can, if they're not on you. Also, the reduced damage taken by 6% and frenzied regeneration, that's just insane for survivability. Ferals die without this very easily. Restoration Affinity, I only go this in 2s when I'm playing double DPS. And even then, I only go it like half the time. It depends on the combo I'm playing and what we're queuing into. For example, I've been playing a lot of Shadow Priest Feral lately. I usually don't run it, but when we queue into like a Holy Priest Demonology Warlock, I swapped to Resto Affinity, and it feels really good for just healing throughput and like just staying alive and healthy. It just depends. It's more of like a feel it out on your own terms thing. I would just need more context. There's so many variables that would, but generally when you play with hybrids, you go Guardian Affinity. When you play with like a hunter, you pretty much want Resto Affinity every game. It just depends. Just depends on what you're queuing into and stuff. So this next tier, Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, Heart of the Wild. Mighty Bash, baseline, obviously. That extra stun, even though it's a 1 minute cooldown now, and it's a 4-second stun instead of a 5-second like it was back in the day. It kind of sucks. It's still really good. Mass Entangle, I will swap to Mass Entangle into like Windwalkers and Unholy DKs. That's it, and I don't even really swap to it that much into them. I think if it would depend on what comp I'm playing. Usually when I'm playing with a hunter, he'll go Binding Shot, so you won't really need to go Mass Entanglement. And having the bash for a hunter to trap off of, or using that bash to peel, or as like a second stun and a go. This just has too many value uses. Like you really do want to try and have bash, but if this, you don't win if you don't live. So if Mass Entanglement means you live, then you should swap to it in terms of like queuing it on Holy DKs or Windwalkers. Heart of the Wild, this is only a 2's talent again. I really taken when I go Resto Affinity. When I go Resto Affinity, let's say it's into like a DH. So Metamorphosis lasts for like fucking like a minute. Like you I-beam into Metamorphosis and then you I-beam again before Metamorphosis is over. So it's a super long time. So let's Arsham DH, and then the Arsham has like an Earth Ellie out. They're running Earth Ellie Legendary. Those are very high pressure, and Heart of the Wild lasting 45 seconds. It increases the healing of your restoration spells by 30%, and mana cost are reduced by 50%. So you're able to just sit there and kind of spam it out if they will let you. If they swap to you, it kind of sucks. You really need to be able to get away, because you with this build, you do not have Frenzy Regeneration. You're taking 6% more increased damage. You don't have Baron Cap to peel for yourself. You do have Vortex, so that's a positive. You can also use Vortex offensively. Little pro tip. Monks and Warlocks, they both have ports. It's definitely a little bit more consistent with Monks. You can like Vortex them, stun them, do your go, they try to port away, they instantly get sucked back like during the stun. They're like, oh no, our cheating ability that they gave us in this expansion for some reason is not saving me because I got sucked back. All right, cool. Yeah, that's a couple of good uses. So in this next row, Soul of the Forest baseline. For every combo point you spend, you get 5 energy back. It feels very fluid with feral rotation. It feels nice. Increases your finishers by 5%, like the damage they do. So that's Rip and Bite. Savage Roar, you only go this. You go for the one-shot build, and you also go it when you just want your Feral Frenzy goes to do more damage. Like you want higher damage goes. It's just more damage in goes in general. It does feel a little bit more clunky. I feel like sometimes a little bit energy starved. Sometimes I feel like when I play Savage Roar, I don't have a maim as quickly as as I want it for my team. I feel like I'm saying a little bit more often when I play Savage Roar, like, okay, I can go in 5 seconds rather than like, I can go in 2, I can go in 1 second, I can get one, you know what I mean? It delays the go, it feels like sometimes. It's just Soul of the Forest, especially if you're a new feral. Just don't even look at these. Incarn, they butchered it. It's an awful talent now. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It's very unfortunate. You get 1 stealth with it. It's just in a Berserk lasts 10 seconds longer. That's pretty much all it is. But it gives you a charge of stealth that you can use in combat. So maybe like in like a 2 scenario, you can like rake stun somebody with it, and then like use the stealth charge to stealth away. Then get a clean read like in between the rogue mage goes. I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm not trying. I don't want to justify the use of this. Don't play it. Don't play it. Brutal Slash, the only talent to use here. Sin of Blood is awful. Primal Wrath. You know, if you want to troll around in an RBG, use Primal Wrath. Like you're team fighting, you're padding the meters. Go Blood Talons, Primal Wrath. Go Wicked Claws, and boom, now you're the MS on the team. You can even go Balance Affinity. That could be the one use of Balance Affinity I would ever suggest. But again, that's for the 1 out of the 10,000 games that your team isn't having you base it or ninja or swap to Guardian to flag carry or base it as Guardian. Yeah, that's just the life of a feral. Shout out to all my feral mains out there who have felt the pain and the suffering and the boredom of sitting a base 20 games in a row just so you can get some conquest. Okay, and for the last row, Feral Frenzy. That's it. It's extremely bursty. It must always be respected. Blood Talons. I played around with it a little bit. I was using it to cleave 2 targets against Resto Druid. I still preferred Feral Frenzy. And if anybody goes like, I saw Axton log out with Blood, shut the fuck up. Who asked? Bitch, shut up. It's Feral Frenzy or nothing. Go watch an Axton guide if you want to go play Blood Talons. He didn't log out with Blood Talons because he's baseline Blood Talons. This man will log out with some shit that looks like this, and everybody will be like, "Oh, I saw Axton log out with all these. And is this the PvP?" Shut up. Who asked, bitch? All right, let's talk about PvP talents. So this is the baseline build I go when I'm playing a comp that has an MS. If my comp does not have an MS, I run Wicked Claws instead of Leader of the Pack, and then this is what it will look like. I also baseline run Strength of the Wild for every comp in the game, for everything I do. I just think the 50% health in bear form plus the being able to recover your teammates easier with the increased crit chance and reduced cast time on regrowth after you cast one on somebody. I just think this is so valuable, and I never ever want to spec out of this. You can make arguments too. If you don't think you feel like you need the benefits of this and you want to go to something like Ferocious Wound, whatever. I don't do it. I don't suggest it. Okay. Then this third talent is the one that I mostly change throughout the queue session. So this is like, these two will be baseline depending on what I queue into. It's like, oh, I'm playing jungle, so I'm gonna have this baseline. This is what my queue session, I will have these 2 talents the entire queue session, and then I'll only change this one. If I'm playing like Affliction Warlock Feral Healer, then I will go Wicked Claws, and then this is what my bottom two talents will look like the entire queue session, and this top one will change. I always keep Thorns in the top one baseline because I would rather accidentally forget to change my talents into a caster cleave and be like, oh fuck, I forgot to change Thorns, it's whatever, we get to win this. It's not like I'm losing a huge thing, I feel like, in my head. But if I queue into a melee cleave without Thorns, I want to end it all because it's so much, it can be so much damage, and it is also that value with the slow, and it's just so good into melee cleaves that if you forget it, you're a very sad cat. Let's talk about other talents I would take instead of this. So I would go like this into Boomkins when you don't have a freedom on your team, because it will remove the root on your healer when you roar near them, and it'll be on a 1-minute cooldown instead of a 2-minute cooldown. I think this is a really good talent just in the Boomkins. I would never run this in anything else, I think. This is like a RBG talent or something. I don't know. I would never ever play this. King of the Jungle RBG talent. I would never play this unless I was like triple Reiki, like ripping the enemy team or something. I don't suggest this ever, really, in any real scenario. Ferocious Wound, I like going this into Rogue Mage a lot as my third talent. The value of having the kill target having less health for goes, and that's, I feel like you're killing a lot in goes versus Rogue Mage. Also Thorns, since there's 2 purges, Thorns, they just purge it off. Fresh Moon, I don't like it. Not good. You get 2 combo points when you break something that doesn't have a break on it. That's not very much value comparatively to these other talents we have. Savage Momentum, insane talent into Caster Cleaves, into Disc Priest. I really like Savage Momentum. I'll even go it into DHs because they have a consistent thing you can kick. I-Beam, they like do it every like 30 seconds. King of the Jungle. So I would only ever run this if you're doing like a team fight build for an RBG, which, you know, as a feral, that's a 1 in 1,000 times, a 1 in 1,000 RBGs that you're ever going to be team fighting in if you're not being a Guardian base setter or you're going to Ninja base. It's the sad truth of feral druids. And then High Winds. I think High Winds has a lot of potential to be a good talent as in this third slot. I'm going to experiment with it more in the future. I've recently taken a really strong liking to the haste version of feral, and I've been cloning a lot more. And I think High Winds can have a lot of synergy with that. I think into certain things it could have more value than like Thorns or Savage Momentum. And Leader of the Pack. I'm not sure, but whenever the clone ends, the target does 30% less healing and does 30% reduced damage. If you're queuing into something you free cast clones against and you're also the haste build, maybe try going this instead of like Thorns or something. It could be really good. Okay, let's talk about legendaries. The first legendary, there's only 3 legendaries. The first one is Draught of Deep Focus. It has really good synergy with the Necrolord playstyle. You only want to run this when you're only going 1 target, which is a majority of the time. You still want to run this even if like you end up swapping, like if you think you're gonna swap in a game to another target. If you're not actively double bleeding all game, always Draught of Deep Focus. If you are going to be cleaving, like into Resto Druid comps, it can be really good to spread pressure, especially against our Druid Ret Warrior, where the healer, they have so many tools to keep their healer from being in CC, like Judgment Dispel and Sank and War Banner. It can be very annoying. So you just need to do the most damage you can to all the targets, since Resto Druids, their single target healing efficiency and effectiveness is extremely high, while also still being able to trade cooldowns. And then they'll go like they'll be 80% mana fucking like 2 minutes into the game, even sometimes if you run Draught and you guys are just single targeting. So if you're on Circle, you spread pressure, you'll be able to pressure that Druid a lot more mana bar wise. Your damage over time effects they deal their damage in 25% less time, and your healing over time effects in 50% less. It just makes your dots do all their damage but much quicker. This is just good because you lose the value from Draught. You will get 0 value from Draught, and then your dots will just do more damage because they're doing they're quicker. They're doing their dots quicker. Yep. Okay. Skin logo. I rarely run this. I run this into things where I can die. As a feral druid, you know, you're generally the tankiest target on your team, as long as you're playing correctly, and being able to press bear form and then skin, and that procs a frenzied regen, and then when that ends it gives you another frenzy regen. That's insane. But also the increased damage reduction from bark skin, that's good too, but you're really only doing this for the frenzied regen. I would do it into things like I did it into DH DK R Shaman the other day. We lost the first game. It felt like they were the overwhelming pressure And then the next game I played it and I felt super safe and we won like third go. So I felt like I didn't need that damage. We just needed 3 goes because they still had to like trade a large amount of cooldowns to live or 3 goes. So we were still able to get through everything even without the increased damage from draw. While also still being able to survive. This could be used at your discretion. Maybe you're really new ferals here and you're finding yourself, oh, I'm always fucking dead, or you have no gear. This is a really good thing to help you live when you have no gear as well. When I was gearing a feral on EU, I used skin this was the first Lego I crafted just so I could like live because I had 0 gear. But yeah, those are the 3 legendaries that you will run as a feral. Our Unity Lego just gives Adaptive Swarm a 60% chance to split into 2 swarms each time it jumps. This can be a really annoying legendary, or it can be really good. I really like it when I play Circle, Centric Cleaving 2 targets, and then Adaptive Swarm is like on both of the targets a lot of time. Unity will, the Adaptive Swarm will end up doing a lot of damage if it jumps on the enemy team a lot. It just keeps splitting onto them. Sometimes it'll end up in my top 3. I even recently had a game today where it was my top damage randomly. I was forced to play defensive this game, so that definitely contributed. If you're playing Resto Affinity in 2s, like you're playing double DPS and you're playing Resto Affinity, having an Adaptive Swarm being on your teammate more than usual, that's really good. Like if it jumps over there onto your teammate, so your Rejuve is just continuously doing that increased amount of healing, plus the Adaptive Swarm healing itself. It can be really annoying because it will sometimes jump to the healer and it will be in the air and it has such a slow travel time, and then your hunter will go and land the trap and the Adaptive Swarm will still be in the air and then land and then hit the healer and it will break the trap. And sometimes those traps are game-winning traps that get broken, and then you lose the game and you want to jump out of a window on the first floor, of course. With the haste build, I think you always wear Unity though. When I go the haste build, I think Unity is really good on the ring because you want to have haste on both rings to get the max amount of haste you can have. Okay, so I just wanted to go over enchants and gems real quick because I left that out of the guide on accident. So I fully gem verse and enchant verse, and I have 1 speed gem, straddling jewel doublet. Obviously, you can only have 1. It's a unique gem. Increases your speed by 13 for each Shadowlands gem you have socketed. It gives you like, I don't know, like 7% speed or something, like when you're fully socketed up. And then I go Celestial Guidance on my weapon. I go the speed enchants on my cloak. And then I obviously enchant my boots with agility. 9.3 stat priority is heavily debated. A lot of good ferals have different gear builds. The popular stat prio until this season was Verse, Mastery, Haste, then Crit. Now the new popular stat prio is Verse, Haste, Mastery, then Crit, with some ferals even opting to drop Verse after hitting 30% in favor of more Mastery or Haste. Haste affects energy regen, Brutal Slash cooldown, Frenzied Regeneration cooldown, Clone, Regrowth, and Root cast times, Spell GCD, which affects things like Shifting, Adaptive Swarm, and Bash. Haste also affects the amount of times your bleeds tick. Mastery affects Catform, Bleed abilities, and Bite. So, me personally, I've always ran the Mastery build. But since other ferals that I respect have been running it, I've tried it out and I really like it. I like the reduced, I love the reduced cast time on cloning. I love my globals feel way smoother when I'm shifting forms. When I press bash, it just feels really fluid and it doesn't feel like you lose very much damage. I think it's a lot of fun and you should definitely give it a try. I've pretty much moved into completely a haste build on all my sets. I definitely recommend trying it. I prefer it over Mastery now. One more thing I wanted to note is that if you're gonna play the haste build, you need to be pressing clone more to get the full value of your haste build, right? Because that's one of the probably the biggest benefit is having a reduced cast time on your clone. Getting kicked on that for your healer or just getting those clones all the time. They're harder to kick. They more effectively bring out kicks. It's easier to juke with a faster clone too. I just highly recommend pressing clone a lot more than you probably have in the past running the Burst Mastery build. All right, let's talk about trinkets. So, BM trinket, that's what I call it. It used to be called Battle Master, now it's called Emblem. It increases your health by 36k when you use it. It lasts for 15 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This is really good as a defensive cooldown. Just living. I like this into Rogue Mage. I like this into melee cleaves. I like this into mind games. I like this in anything that could potentially be mind games, like so Rogue Mage Priest would be the main thing. I like into caster cleaves. I like going Aegis, especially UA Warlocks. I generally, if there's UA Warlock in the other team, I'm putting this on no matter what. Same with Demo. Not really with Destro though. I'll still go Chaos Ball with Destro, or I will still go Emblem BM with Destro versus a Destro. If you don't feel like you need any survivability, go Insignia. The haste with the agility proc. It's really good for damage. I usually run this baseline in 2s. Unless it's like in a double DPS, then I'll go Aegis or BM, depending on what it is. I run Badge when I do the one-shot build. I haven't upgraded it this season. I could max it out right now, but but other than that, I don't really use Badge anymore. I prefer Insignia because since we moved towards haste, it has just more haste with an agility proc. It's really good. The only time I ever wear Adapt in a competitive setting is in 2s into Arsham Windwalker because I have no way to proc it besides Leg Sweep. Yep. Very good. Relent. I suggest you only go Relent if you are really know what you're doing. Being able to Trinket Bear Frenzy, Trinket save somebody else. I feel like this is kind of good to run into Outlaw Rogues because you're sitting so much CC a lot into those comps. Like I could see like an Argid Outlaw Rogue just like fucking the shit out of you with CC, like gouge into full kidney into a cyclone, and then they try to hive you out of the cyclone, and you shift out, and you go back into cat form, and they're hiving you again. And you're like, okay. Oh, why is your damage so low? Well, I haven't left CC for the past 30 seconds. I fucking hate our druids and I hate outlaw rogues. I like playing Resonator. When I play double DPS 2s, I still haven't upgraded this on my main either, but I will. A lot of times you'll get every cooldown in the opener, or maybe you don't send Sickle in the opener, but you put down a Resonator so they still have to Trinket, and then the next Feral Frenzy you'll have Sickle. It's just another way to force them to respect a go, or if they use everything, you'll be able to just kill them in like a second go or a third go before they have their trinkets back up. So feral compositions in 2s and 3s. In 2s you can literally play with any healer. My favorite is Priest. I think that's the best version. Disc or Holy. Holy's probably a little bit better than Disc, but Disc is very insane. Both with Kyrian, being Kyrian. I don't fucking play with Night Fae Priest in 2s. The most boring shit ever. Unless it's Night Fae Shadow Priest, that's a different story. And for 3s, you could play a lot of comps like Jungle, Feral Shadow Priest Healer. You could play Kitty Cleave, which is like Feral Warrior Healer. But the quintessential feral composition is jungle. I'm gonna talk about jungle. That is the most consistently playable, best comp for feral, historically, at least in recent expansions. So the jungle is typically feral, hunter, healer, the most popular healer being priest. There are so many defining factors of your jungle which can make your specific jungle unique, and it's important to understand these factors so you can understand your strengths and weaknesses. Your healer can be Disc or Holy, Night Fae or Kyrian. I haven't seen a single Venthyr jungle priest this season. Your hunter can be MM, BM, or survival, and MM can play with Venthyr, Necro, Kyrian. Venthyr seems like the most safe since it has the least counterplay. A typical jungle opener will be, so you go in there, the hunter will camouflage, you'll stealth, and your priest will kind of sit back. Since it's a Night Fae Disc priest, we don't have chastise, so my hunter will intim the healer. I will rake stun the kill target, and I will send my damage, and then he will trap off the intim. And we will do that like a 3, 2, 1 go, like same thing. Like he intims, I stun the kill target at the same time. The healer will either like MC the off target, he'll fear the off target. I can Baron cap the off target into a fear. The off target being the target that you're not going, nor the healer. Or your healer, maybe the third is an off target that you don't really need to worry about that much. The healer can just fear off the trap. That is a typical jungle opener. For the second go, where your hunter doesn't have intimidation, the stun, you will typically want to bash the healer into his trap. Sometimes you can trap on his own. If your hunter feels comfortable doing that, that's great, because sometimes you have to use bashing the opener randomly to like peel, like you almost die, or like let's say you get knocked out of stealth, and then your meld rake stun also gets fucked. Then you have to use bash to stun, and yeah, guess what? Your hunter now has to go trap the healer on his own. First go intim, second go bash for the trap, and it'll keep going back and forth. Like you'll rotate through bash and intim for traps, and you will typically want a stun on the kill target before you stun the healer, so the kill target can't pre-use anything. It just depends on what you're queuing into. Do you when you double stun the second go without intim, inherently you have to, one of the targets can pre-use something. So if you stun the kill target first and then you stun the healer, the healer will be able to pre-use before he gets stunned, knowing the go is coming, knowing like the stun for the trap is coming. If you stun the healer, then the target can like pop a wall, or like vanish, or like leap away to a pillar. They could use they could do a lot of things to interfere with your go. It just depends on which one's more annoying. Like Holy Paladins, if you stun the kill target and you walk him, he's gonna sack, and now you can't trap the paladin that's you sack, because how sack works, it transfers damage to them. So yeah, that's a typical, that's like a jungle explanation. And your priest is usually fearing off traps, they're fearing the off target, or they're MCing a lot during the goes. Maybe even MCing the kill target low occasionally out of the trap on the healer if you can't clone off the trap. Cloning in general is very important. Your healer is not going to be able to get fear all the time. They're on your hunter. You're able to free cyclone off of trap a lot. You can also cyclone things low. You can cyclone defensively. You need to be cycloning a lot. It does DR with fear and mind control though, so keep that in mind when you're doing stuff. Let's talk about Necrolord Feral rotation, openers, and when to use Sickle /Berserk. Your rotation is centered around snapshotting your bleeds and using Adaptive Swarm to further boost your dot damage, prioritizing your Feral Frenzy and Sickle of the Lion, which is your 4-set bleed that is applied to anyone near you within about 10 yards when you press Berserk. Snapshotting is where you use a damage buff, then apply a dot, and that dot will do that buff damage for the remainder of its duration or until reapplied. This used to be a common class mechanic in WoW that has been all but removed, Feral being the only spec in the game left with snapshotting, specifically with the ability Tiger's Fury. Tiger's Fury is the only ability in the game that still snapshots damage. What this means is it does not dynamically apply to your damage, so when you press it, your bleeds don't start doing 21% more damage instantly. You have to apply bleeds while buffed with Tiger's Fury, and they do 21% increased damage for the remaining duration. All Feral dots, including Moonfire and Adaptive Swarm, are affected by Tiger's Fury. Adaptive Swarm increases the effectiveness of all dots and hots, including Frenzied Regeneration, by 38% when you have the max eye level empowered Conduit in. The goal is to have as much uptime as possible on your kill target with your Rake, Moonfire, and Rip, and to empower these bleeds as much as possible with Tiger's Fury and Adaptive Swarm, while prioritizing using them for your burst cooldowns, aka Feral Frenzy and Sickle of the Lion, meaning you hold off on using Tiger's Fury Adaptive Swarm sometimes to pair them with your burst. After you use Feral Frenzy and Sickle of the Lion, you'd use the remaining duration of Tiger's Fury to snapshot your bleeds for maximum damage. There's 3 different types of openers I use, where you rip, half maim, or low, no commitment opener to generate combo points. I typically use rip opener when the damage being dealt doesn't have to be respected with major cooldowns like a wall or a trinket, which is Tiger's Fury into Rake from Stealth, into Feral Frenzy, into Adaptive Swarm, into Rip, into Moonfire. I don't usually commit Sickle with this type of opener. I typically use the half maim opener when the damage being dealt should be respected with a major cooldown, like wall or trinket, which is Tiger's Fury into Rake from Stealth, into Feral Frenzy, into Adaptive Swarm, into a half maim, into Moonfire, Brutal Slash, and I apply a rip before Tiger's Fury falls off. If I decide to commit Sickle in my opener, this is typically the opener I use, and I press Sickle at the same time I press Feral Frenzy. I will use the low to no commitment opener, which I call a soft opener, to generate combo points depending on several variables. Versus our druids to get them out of stealth and bait hots into the target we aren't planning to commit to, then swap to the real kill target. Occasionally boomkins because they will Baron Cap your opener and potentially clone you off the incap, and you don't want you to be CC'd through your Tiger's Fury, and you want to be able to Adaptive Swarm your Feral Frenzy. Serve Hunters will just mend your damage out of camo if you open something else and commit cooldowns to them, so you either want to wait for camo and hard open Hunter or soft open something else. And sometimes rogues, when fighting healer rogue in 2s, I will shred healer out of stealth since it generates 2 combo points from stealth and 3 if it crits, and shred has double the chance to crit when it's from stealth, and immediately bear form, which is essentially giving them the first go, but you have 3 combo points, 2 to 3 combo points, and are very tanky for the first go since you are in bear. I determine if I want to use Sickle in the opener based on several variables. Is the kill target Kyrian? It's good to try and get File in the opener without Sickle. They will have to give File a lot of times in strong jungle / kitty cleave openers. Then you Sickle second go if you have a lot of pressure, or with second Feral Frenzy, which is your strongest burst. Is the enemy team running AoE Kyrian File? This is more metagamey, where you play around knowing if the enemy team has AoE File or not from seriesing them. I don't typically assume a team is AoE File until I see it. Into sub-RMP, the rogue is Kyrian 99% of the time, so I typically won't press Sickle on the rogue until he files, and I won't Sickle the mage until after they've used Alter Time or Alter Time has been purged. Also, pro tip, since mages are running Blink Stun in this meta, don't stun the mage into Sickle, or there's a high chance they will blink out of your Sickle and you will be a very sad cat. I recommend stunning, then waiting for the mage to blink, then leap Sickle. Is the kill target a hunter, or is there a survival hunter in the enemy team? If there is a survival hunter in the enemy team, they have Mending Bandage, which removes all bleeds on somebody on a 25-second cooldown. I will either wait till the survival hunter is crossed, aka in crowd control, to send my cooldowns, or I will only send Feral Frenzy to bait Mending, then Sickle after, and reapply my bleeds on top of the Sickle. If the kill target is any spec of hunter, they are probably the Feign Death Legendary, Craven Stratagem, which will remove all feral dots and bleeds. So you either need to send your cooldowns in stuns, or see if your team has enough pressure to force a Feign Death before committing your cooldowns. Hunters you queue into will typically be Orc and wearing a normal medallion trinket, or a human wearing a relentless trinket. When they are human relent, their racial stun trinket is a 3-minute cooldown, so I like to full send every cooldown on a human relent user in long stun chains, i.e. full maim and a half bash or a meld rake stun, since my Berserk cooldown will be back up much sooner than their human racial due to the CDR from our 2-set bonus, so you will be able to pop every cooldown into them a second time while they have no trinket. I will still Sickle in openers versus Holy Paladin teams. They typically trinket bop whoever you send Sickle on, send Feral Frenzy Sickle on, which is a very good trade, and if they don't, you will force defensive cooldowns from the kill target themselves. Typically. And I will hold my Sickle versus our Druid melee cleaves until I can hit both of the melee with my Sickle, since you generally are double bleeding into our Druids and want max pressure on both targets. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys the cheese one-shot build. You need to go Savage Roar, you go Plague's Preemptive Strike Conduit, you swap to the Circle Legendary, and you equip Badge. And when that comes off cooldown, I'm going to show you how you do it. So let's get the mastery buff up from Fleshcraft. And what I typically do is I rake, Savage Roar, Berserk, Feral Frenzy, Adaptive Swarm, Half Main, Moonfire, triple DR stun, rip. And you have to meld for that triple DR stun, obviously. And then you go from there. If you want to be more consistent, if you like doing these extra bursty goes, and you want this to be a little bit more viable, you could probably go Taste for Blood instead of Plague, since that only procs once a game. And then I would keep Savage Roar, and you have to stay circle for this to feel like extra bursty. If you queue into something where you think badge, where you don't need an extra defensive button, I would go badge over insignia with this build. Alright, I also wanted to put in a few feral things that I wanted to weave into this guy, but I couldn't find a way, so I figured I'd just put them in feral tips sections. 4 feral tips that'll take you from challenger to rank 1. So the first one I have on the list here is Tiger's Fury shifts you in the cat form and doesn't put you on global, allowing you to bypass the GCD for shifting in a cat form. This is commonly used to instantly shift slows and roots, but another way good ferals will use it is they will either have 5 combo points while sitting in bear form or have bash off cooldown, and will Tiger's Fury stun instantly so the person can't react. This trick is commonly used via things that hold their stun while you are in bear form and wait for you to leave bear form to stun you. So if I, let's say I have 5 combo points, I'm generating 5 combo points, I'm moonfiring, and I know when I walk into this rogue, he has a kidney for me. So I get my 5 combo points of moonfire, and I walk into him, but I bear form up. And your team's like, okay, we have Intim Trap, we have a fear. Alright, so instead of going cat form and then maiming, because that takes a whole global and he can just press kidney on you in cat form before you maim him, you can, so let's get these combo points again. So you walk up to him, my maim's on 3-second cooldown here, 2, 1, so you walk up and you just Tiger's Fury maim instantly, no gap, which is very useful. My tip number 2 is bear form charge puts your kick on a 1-second cooldown. So if you bear charge to somebody to kick them because you need to stop a cast, your kicks won't go off for 1 second, so you need to be prepared to do something else like bearing cap or bash to prevent that cast from going off. I'll show it one more time. So look at my kick. Notice how it goes on a 1 second cooldown. 1 minute would be kind of rough, huh? Alright, so tip 3. Bear form removes Tiger's Fury. So see how my Tiger's Fury buff is up? I leave, I go into human form, I go into travel form, it stays around. I go bear form, it's removed. So keep that in mind when you're playing the game. You don't want to like Tiger's Fury and know you're gonna instantly Baron cap something. Like if you have planned to like rake stun something and then leap Baron cap something, I would just rake it without pressing Tiger's Fury. Go Baron cap, come back, and then press Tiger's Fury. Tip 4: Sickle of the Lion ignores targets in CC, like traps and roots. So don't accidentally use Predatory Swiftness proc to root the target, then press Sickle of the Lion into it. So I've made this mistake a lot of times, especially on hunters that disengage. My reaction is to use my Predatory Swiftness proc to root them to connect to them, and also whenever hunters press feign, I will also just reactively root them so they don't move away from me after they feign. It's something I've had to work on. I definitely had to fix it. So let's say I just bite this guy and I root him and then I sickle. You know? Completely ignored him. Don't do that. That's fucked up. Yeah, and that's my 4 feral tips that'll take you straight to the top, baby. I'll see you there. Well, I'll see you on the way there, because I'm not exactly at the top. I'll be close, you know, on your way up. You know, like I'll zap you. I'll be like, damn, you made it up here, up to this point. Now you can keep going further, because I'm not necessarily at the top. All right, you get. Anyways. So the last part of this video, I want to talk about macros. I'm going to talk about a few specific macros though that I have that are pretty special. Okay, the first macro I want to talk about is the Affinity Macro. This macro will swap to whatever ability you're running or affinity you're running, whatever ability you gain from that affinity. So balance, it's Typhoon, and then Guardian, it's Bearing Cap. And for Resto, it would be Ursul's Vortex, but I removed that from there because I like having that on its own keybind. The reason I like doing that is because as Resto, you get Vortex baseline, and I wanted to be able to have Vortex on my on Alt W, and then or my Bearing Cap on Alt W, and then Vortex on another keybind. That's just the main reason I did that. The other macro I have that's very similar to this is my bash keybind. It will just swap to this. So my bash is on my app, but it will swap to Mass Entangle or Heart. And then it also, this macro is also a focus bash keybind. So like if I walk up and I shift press F, it will bash my focus target. And same thing with mass entanglement. So it's just a kind of a big macro baked into one, so it can just stay on one keybind, so I don't have to ever think about it. The less things I have to think about in the starting room, the better, because I have terrible ADHD, as you can probably tell from this guide so far. This guide is hell. Okay, so now another macro I think every feral should have is Skullbash. So what this macro does is it automatically puts you into cat form if you're not in cat form to kick something. And also if you're in bear form, it will not put you in cat form. You'll stay in bear form and you'll still kick something. It's really good. And it also focus kick. I have a focus kick baked into here as well. It's very good, very good. My leap to target macro. So when you want to eat traps or just leap to someone to get away, you're in cat form, like, oh shit, I need to get away. This target will automatically bring out a cat form and leap to the target that you've selected. I'm gonna show you my meld macro. So this has got a lot of stuff going on here. So if you have a Kevin's Oozeling out, your meld will bug. So if you press this and you spam it, you should be able to drop combat instantly, but if you have like a Kevin attacking, you won't be able to go in stealth, so it's really annoying. Yeah, I also have a stop attack function, so you don't accidentally attack something. I just shadowmeld and prowl. If you spam this button, it automatically puts you in prowl. The exclamation marks are so you don't spam it so much that you leave the form again. The exclamation mark is like a prevent toggle function in the macro. Script set raid target. So when you meld and you have a marker on, it will remove the markers. So this macro just puts it back on instantly. And then also I put stopcasting in here because if you need to like meld something while you're like casting a cyclone, let's say like you're like casting this rogue and then you see him, you're cycloning this rogue and then you see him turn to you to like kidney you, you can like try and meld it and you don't have to like stop your cast before you do it. So it'd be like, yeah, pretty much like that. Or like let's say you're in the middle of a cast and you see like a huge chaos bolt coming for you, meld that shit and you don't have to worry about like moving your character or canceling your cast in another way. It just is all baked into this macro. So I have a mount macro as well that I personally bake cancel aura blessing protection and cancel aura thorns into my mount macro, because when you're in combat and you're never like mounting up, and like if you're in combat while you're trying to hit mount up, let's see if I can get combat without. So look, I'm pressing it. It doesn't take me out of form. It doesn't do anything. There's no punishment for me pressing this cancel aura while I'm in combat. And I'm always gonna be in combat if I have one of these things on, right? And then so the main reason you cancel a bot because you don't want a mage to steal it and you're going to mage, or you want to cancel aura thorns because you press thorns and then the monk karmas the thorns, so you don't want to take as much damage from karma. That's happening. That's a lot more of a rare case nowadays. Maybe like if you're gonna die, you're playing WPS2s and you want to take reduced damage, you don't want to like take that unnecessary damage. But like generally in 3s, I see a karma, I'm like, hell yeah, you beat into that thorns, and then we're gonna break that karma instantly. Bitch, get fucked. I don't know. But yeah, those are some examples. Oh, and a little FYI, I guess a lot of people don't know this for some reason. Reflect does not do anything with thorns. It doesn't have an interaction with thorns anymore. It doesn't reflect the damage. It doesn't reflect the slow. It doesn't stop the damage. It doesn't do anything. The thorns is still going to work, and it doesn't do a single thing. It's a waste to press shield reflect. I don't know why I'm helping warriors here, but I'm saying that whenever you see a warrior press the reflect, don't worry about it. They're dumb. Okay, so this is like an interesting script I'll give you guys, I guess. So this puts, you have to press this every time you log in, but it'll put 1, 2, 3 over the enemy's nameplates. So like if this was like Arena 1, it'd put 1 instead of Stone Tusk Boar here in the arena. It's really good, but I actually just downloaded an add-on that does it for me every time, so I don't have to think about it. Arena nameplate number is BFA, so it works pretty good. All right, Trinket 1, Trinket 2 macros. This is like a very simple thing, but I suggest everybody does this. There's actually so many people that don't do this. It blows my mind. I don't know why everybody doesn't just put their on you, like the trinket that removes CC on the same keybind every time, and put that in trinket slot 1 and put that in a macro. So I put trinket 1 on here, and then I always put like my my BM or my exil or my badge or my resonator on my trinket 2 slot. And then I always have my Trinket 2 slot here. For me, it's C. For you, it'd be whatever. And so that way, you never have to like remember to drag a trinket onto your bars. It's super good for just removing that extra step of having to think about like changing something on your UI before the game starts or whatever. Again, if you have ADHD like I do, you're trying to remove all those instances where you can throw in the starting room where nothing is actually grabbing your attention because you're waiting for a timer to go down to 0. So you zone out, and then boom, gates open. Oh wait, I forgot to change this, that. It just removes an extra potential mistake you can make. So that's all the macros I wanted to talk about, and I'll have all these in the description. All right, let's talk about Weakauras. So when we look at my Weakauras, we see I use a lot of Weakauras. Okay, a lot of these are personal to me. A lot of these are just very generic Weakauras that anybody could use. This is a feral guide. This is not a fucking Weakaura PvP guide. I'm not trying to go over all of these. If you have questions about anything specific, stop by the stream and ask me. But the main ones I'm gonna give you are the combo point. Is the combo point Weakaura. Me and Axton actually created this Weakaura together. I'm gonna give you the Hibernate Scare Beast Weakaura. This will always, like if you're in arena, it will always see this. This will light up and the bar will go right whenever anybody in the enemy team casts Scare Beast or Hibernate. It's very good. And that's the guide. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I stream at SporadicLive on Twitch. I'm also going to put a link to my Discord community in the description below, as well as links to my other socials, which is just Twitter. Besides that, have a great rest of your day. Peace.